He asks why everyone is there staring at him. The people are shocked by him. He asks what happened for them to be so stunned. Carl and a young man tell him to look at the ceiling, and as he does, he sees that it's completely destroyed. The two cheer, saying the young master managed to blow up the ceiling. Even he is shocked, asking how he did that. Trying to dodge the subject, he asks if it's really worth celebrating something like that. The young boy says yes, they should celebrate, because at that moment the protagonist managed to unleash. Blaine interrupts the boy, saying that Lynn unleashed an extremely powerful amount of magical energy, so that truly came from him. Hearing that he actually did that, the protagonist is stunned. He looks at his hand and says he understands now. He can really sense magical power. He starts wondering if it's because of the magic book Oliver gave him. While the others celebrate in the back, he wonders why he entered a strange space right when he awakened his magic. The protagonist calls Carl and asks him to take a look at the book. He explains that he'd like the knight to try following the book's instructions for cultivation and report if he feels anything different. Shortly after, the protagonist says that neither Carl nor his uncle felt anything unusual after reading the book, so maybe only he can enter that mysterious space. And every time he tries to tell others about it, the system doesn't allow it. Furthermore, ever since he blew up the roof, whenever he tries to meditate, he ends up coughing blood. The system appears, warning that the dragon's level will be the limit of his magic level. Forcing it too much could cause the user's body to explode. Lynn must quickly raise the fire dragon Yiya to level 1. Until the dragon reaches level 1, the user cannot use magic. After receiving this information, he realizes that all this time, it was the system that limited his magic power absorption. Frustrated with this situation, Lynn tries not to return to the ranch. However, that damn butler invades his real life, even showing up outside the subspace saying that the food is insufficient and therefore the fire dragon Yiya's health dropped to -10. He tries to just keep eating and ignore that message, but the system starts yelling at him, saying that while maybe he can ignore his own basic needs, the hatchling is starving. The system questions what kind of truly qualified farmer he is. Aside from Lynn, no one else seems to know about the dragon's subspace, or even the system. Blaine notices the protagonist seems a bit off, and asks why he's not eating. Lynn tries to cover up and says he suddenly lost his appetite. One of the maids appears bringing another plate of food for him. Blaine asks how he can eat so little and emphasizes that he should eat more, as practicing magic is very good for the body. Lynn thanks his uncle for the words, but the system starts laughing. Blaine goes on to say that he's already informed Oliver about the protagonist's magic awakening, and that he may come to take Lynn to study at their magic academy, Sagrada. Lynn is surprised and asks if he's really going to the Holy Iris Academy. The Sagrada Academy is the best magic academy in the Orande Empire. Oliver and the protagonist's father were both students there. Zoe was one of the most talented students in the entire academy. While relaxing in his room, lying on the bed and happy about the news, several warning messages suddenly pop up in front of him. The system notifies that the fire dragon Yiya's health has dropped below 10, and if the protagonist doesn't return quickly and feed it, then, if the dragon dies, the breeder will be reverted into a dragon egg as compensation for the loss of the ranch. Lynn becomes desperate upon reading that and asks what kind of weird rule that is. After learning this, he has no choice but to feed the dragon every day. While the little dragon eats, Lynn thinks it really has a huge appetite. He never imagined it would end up draining energy like that. He then thinks that maybe if the dragon eats and sleeps well, it'll level up faster, and that would prevent the little hatchling from developing anomalies. The protagonist flicks the dragon on the head again, making it angry, yelling for the bro not to hit its head. The dragon tries to hit him back, saying it's getting stronger. The system appears and says the protagonist is becoming more and more of a qualified breeder. Lynn says he's also becoming more and more like a wolf in sheep's clothing. The system says it doesn't matter what the ranch master says, but just reminds him that it was thanks to them that he finally managed to perceive magical power. Lynn looks at the system and asks if it's really thanks to it that he can feel magic. The butler says yes, and emphasizes that it can give even more. The protagonist asks what that means. Suddenly, the place starts changing, and the butler says that the fire dragon, Yiya, has successfully reached level 1. And with that, the protagonist has unlocked the magical training room. The butler asks why he doesn't try the first lesson inside the training room. As soon as he enters, the first thing he must do is the meditation balance board. Lynn tries to balance, saying he won't fall the moment he loses concentration. So how is he supposed to concentrate and meditate? A timer appears, and after 5 seconds, the butler warns that time's up and the meditation failed, so he'll now drop the hammer of retribution. The hammer starts falling with 40 tons. The protagonist is extremely scared, saying that's brutal. However, the hammer hits him in the face, hurting him. But before he falls, something grabs his foot and pulls him back onto the board. He's confused, not knowing what the hell is going on. The butler says that unless he successfully meditates, he'll never be able to leave the balance board. And if he fails to meditate for 5 seconds, the hammer of retribution will be released again. Seeing he has no way out, he tries his best to focus and asks the system if it's trying to train him or kill him. However, 5 seconds pass and he can't concentrate. This time, 80 tons hit him. This happens over and over until finally, he starts to focus. And the butler congratulates him for completing the training, stating that he has just leveled up. With his face all bruised, he smiles, because he's now at level 1. Sometime later, he goes into the forest and says it's been 7 days of hard training, so he should now be able to experience all that power. He activates his magic perception, and magic begins to surround him. Lin tries to use his power, but only a small fireball comes out. He looks at his hand, asking why it's so small. He quickly puts it out, saying it's embarrassing. Thankfully, no one is around to see it. However, when he looks to the side, he sees little Jack standing there. Jack runs off, shouting that the young master can use fire magic. The protagonist is so embarrassed, he yells for him to shut up and not tell anyone something so humiliating. However, a small attack shoots toward Jack, but he manages to dodge. Lin is surprised, wondering if it's just his imagination or if the fireball got a bit stronger. The butler appears and says Lin should pay attention as the power of magic is affected by the farmer's proficiency. The protagonist gets excited and asks little Jack if he wants to try again, but the boy starts crying, screaming for him to stay away. Lin's peaceful days in that small fief came to an end, marked by Jack's joyful screams. After Oliver received Blaine's letter, he sent back an acceptance letter from the Sacred Academy. Lin was overjoyed and hugged his uncle with all the love in the world. Because of that, all the villagers looked at him warmly, wishing him good luck and asking him to take care of himself as much as possible. And with that heartfelt farewell, Lin Lanster finally stepped onto the road for the first time to become a great mage. It takes about a month by carriage to travel from the fief to the academy. During the day, Jack would guide them to the academy, and at night, the protagonist would go to the ranch to train and raise his dragons. Without even noticing it, the little dragon kept getting bigger. Yiya was now a bit annoyed, staring at the protagonist. Lin asks why Yiya is looking at him like that. Currently, the little dragon's stats are Level 3, Skills Dragon Breath, Dragon Power, Fire Magic Immunity, Magic Bite, Fireball, Shield, Habitat, Small Fire Dragon Nest. A red message appears saying the situation is critical due to overcrowding. Exit, 10 gold coins per minute. Growth value, 3 out of 500. Health value, 100 out of 100. Suddenly, the dragon attacks the protagonist, saying it wants a new habitat. Lin gets scared, saying that this little hatchling is much more lovable than the butler. The protagonist says he'll give him a new habitat, but before that, he wants the dragon to come with him to see the outside world. Yiya stares at the protagonist, asking if he's being serious. The butler says that upon receiving the farmer master's command, he will transfer the host and Yiya to the designated location. The dragon starts getting excited. Lin asks what's wrong and if he's scared, but the dragon says that's nonsense. He's not afraid of anything. However, at the exact moment the two are teleported out, someone notices and opens their eyes. A powerful warrior with a giant dragon asks why there is a dragon outside the Rift Valley. Yiya slowly opens his eyes and asks his master where they are. He says that place is much bigger than that miserable place he was in before. The protagonist asks Yiya if he's enjoying it and if he wants to fly around a bit. The dragon gets extremely happy and spreads his wings. After a month, the protagonist gradually realigned his thoughts, realizing there's no getting rid of that strange ranch, so he might as well work with it. Lin decided he will help raise dragons, and that will help him grow stronger and stronger, until he can find his father and clear his family's name. Suddenly, an arrow comes flying toward them, but Yiya manages to dodge. Lin gets scared and wonders if there are dragon hunters around. However, a small explosion occurs in the forest and cries for help begin to echo. But he also hears people saying they must not retreat, because this is the caravan's last hope. He also hears someone saying they shouldn't care about the caravan because if they do, they'll die quietly. And that's exactly why they must deliver the goods. The protagonist asks if this is a robbery. He continues hearing voices pleading for help and mercy until suddenly he hears someone shouting for the young master. He instantly recognizes the voice and realizes that little Jack is also caught in the middle of all that. Serpents were surrounding them while they were tied to a tree. Jack was starting to cry. He thought his young master had been so focused on practicing magic that he lost a lot of weight. So Jack decided to go out and look for some food for him. However, as he was passing by the caravan, a group of bad guys came out from the forest. They quickly defeated all the soldiers guarding the caravan. Their leader approached the head of the Mason Trade Guild, named Lucas, and demanded he reveal where the goods were hidden. Otherwise, his entire group would be destroyed one by one. The bandit leader used one of his snakes to attack a soldier who quickly began to die. He warned that this would continue if the leader didn't cooperate. Lucas started to panic as he saw his companions falling, but even so, he shut his eyes and began to cry. Trembling, he said he couldn't do it because the buyer of those goods was extremely powerful. If they lost them, they'd be crushed and unable to sell anything ever again. The bandit leader stared at him and said it was fine. They'd keep going anyway. He snapped his fingers and a snake slithered toward little Jack. Terrified, Jack could only think of apologizing to his young master, believing he wouldn't be able to serve him anymore. The snake lunged, but a fireball shot across the sky, burning the ropes and the snakes. The bandit leader asked what was going on, but something was coming toward him. The protagonist kicked him in the face and jumped to the other side. He mocked the bandit, saying he had a very flexible body. Struggling to stay upright, the bandit leader got up while his men asked if he was okay. Jack was amazed to see his young master had come to save him. Lin told him to step back because things were getting dangerous. At that moment, the two groups faced each other, and the bandit said that if that fire magic was cast by the brat in front of them, then he must be at least a third-level mage. But the leader, still furious, asked if a third-level mage was enough to make them all wet their pants. He asked if they had forgotten who the real leader of the gang was. Drawing his sword, he said he was also a third-level knight and that, compared to a mage who needed chanting, knights had absolute dominance in close combat. He attacked, but the protagonist dodged and was surprised by the strength of his opponent. The bandit leader continued to attack fiercely while Lin tried to evade all his strikes. He thought the bandit was right. Mages have no advantage in close-quarters combat. Plus, it was Yaya who cast that fire spell, but to avoid revealing the existence of his dragon, Lin had ordered him to return to the ranch immediately. The bandit leader kept charging and asked Lin if dodging was all he could do. With a quick movement, he appeared behind Lin, who was surprised by his speed. The protagonist tried to dodge, but not fast enough. The attack grazed him and sent him flying. Wounded, he got up trembling, thinking he couldn't keep dodging forever. At least all that time spent on the ranch was paying off, since he had increased his agility and mental strength in the training room. Now he had to fight. He began gathering magic in his hand and called out to the flames. But before he could finish the chant, the bandit leader struck again, landing another blow that launched him into a tree and made him crash to the ground. The bandit grabbed him by the hair and said he was so naive it was almost cute. He added that in front of a knight of equal level, a mage had absolutely no chance in a fight. Then he threw the protagonist hard against a rock. After taking so many hits, Lin was breathing heavily and could barely stand. He realized he was truly at a disadvantage.